What's up, and welcome back to my channel. Today we're talking beginner running tips, okay? Things I've learned along the way, but that I would have really liked to have known when I first started running, and that were not immediately obvious before I'd convinced myself that I would forever suck, that I was not cut out for this, and that I would always be at a place where at the 5-minute mark of my run, my lungs would try to exit my body. Just things that would have been helpful to know. So if you were excited for this video, make sure you shoot me a thumbs up, and if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button so you never miss a video from me. Starting with tip number 1. There are different types of runs, okay? And I'm not just talking indoor running versus outdoor running versus being on a track. No, just as there are different ways that you can lift weights to build muscle, there are different ways that you can run, different types of runs that you can do to build endurance. With weightlifting, you've probably heard something along the lines of 8 to 12 reps is for building muscle, lower reps are for building strength, whereas higher reps are for building endurance or toning, which, while that isn't giving you the total picture, it is pretty much in line with what we know about the mechanisms of muscle growth. Even if you're brand new to running, you know to understand that there is a difference between sprinting short distances versus jogging or walking longer distances. Similar to weightlifting, the difference is in terms of the mechanism. Just here, instead of dealing with mechanisms of muscle growth, we're dealing with energy systems. Either way, with weightlifting or running, the two main variables you're working with are intensity and volume. The main types of runs I do are base runs, so those are runs that are performed at an easy enough intensity that I can maintain a broken conversation. Tempo runs, so those are runs that are performed at an intensity where I can't hold a conversation. Interval runs, so those are runs where I alternate between higher intensity and recovery intervals, where I'm really seeing how far I can push that intensity. And then long runs, so those are runs where I'm just pushing my endurance and seeing how far I can actually run. When I first started running, I straight up thought that I had to just run as far and as hard as I could every time I went out, and I would naturally end up really burnt out really quick. But by addressing each energy system in your training and shifting this over time, that allows you to make progress more efficiently, as well as keep yourself from burning out mentally and physically. I mean, straight up, it gets really boring when every time you go out running, you're doing the exact same thing. Which, on the note of getting bored, that brings me to tip number 2. Okay, I remember when I first started running, I would get myself so worked up that by the time I finally got out on my run, I'd be checking my watch, I'd be checking the treadmill clock every 5 seconds, which made time go by that much slower. Okay, to this day, I still don't know what feels longer, if it's a microwave minute or if it's a treadmill minute. I mean, comment down below with what you think, because I really love food, but there are also times when running it really takes forever to go by. The working theory for why running and other uncomfortable experiences feel so much longer is related to something called the density of experience. Every minute has 60 seconds, every day 24 hours. What makes these periods of time feel longer or shorter is related to how much information you collect from that situation. We collect the most information when we're focused intently on something. Okay, that's why our daily routines fly by, because we're not really paying a lot of attention to them. Whereas new experiences or new sensations, like being out of breath when you're running, we pay that much more attention to, and as a result, they feel that much longer. What's worked for me is taking my focus completely off the time, okay? So when I'm running, I don't look at my watch, I don't look at the clock on the treadmill, I put my towel over that, and instead I like to use music, podcasts, or audiobooks to keep my mind active, but distracted from the running, right? So I'm not really focusing on how long I've been running, how out of breath I am, if my legs are tired. Instead, I'm focusing on what's in my ears. Recently, I've been using Audible to listen to the Star Wars Darth Plagueis series, which is amazing because A, the narrator's voice sounds like a friendlier bedtime storytelling version of Saruman from Lord of the Rings, and B, I actually didn't know that the Star Wars expanded universe had more than just graphic novels and comic books, which I always meant to buy the books. It's not that I didn't want to get the books, but I don't really have time to read, and I'm not gonna lie, I've never known what to do with a book after you've read it. Do you give it to a library? Do you give it to a friend? Or do you put it on a shelf that you forget about until you have to move, and then you have a lot of stuff to pack up and it's just a pain in the butt? I don't know. Those are all reasons why I haven't actually bought the books. And so you can imagine why I was so excited when I saw this series on Audible. It's been amazing. And that's part of why I love Audible, because they have a huge selection of books you can listen to, not read them, forget about later, audio shows, news, comedy, all sorts of stuff, all sorts of listening, so much room for activities. Which, on that note, if you would like to get started listening, Audible has been kind enough to sponsor this video. Okay, so if you go to www.audible.com/abby.pollock or text Abby Pollock, my name, to 500-500, then you can start your 30-day free trial as well as get an audiobook of your choice for free. All right, all the info on that will be in the description box below. Moving on to tip number 3, you need to stop snacking. Okay, now I feel like this advice could apply to so many situations in life, and it's totally something that I have to remind myself on the daily. But this is something that I really struggled with when I first started running. Okay, I get anxious before I run. I did when I started, I still do now. I don't know why. It's probably just because I want to run fast and I put pressure on myself to do so. But my natural instinct when I first started running was to reach for a snack, a little something to settle my stomach, to give me an energy boost. I don't know. It was my instinct to reach for a snack. Now, what you need to know, and what I did not realize about pre-run nutrition, is that it's all about balancing your fuel requirements with digestion time. Fuel requirements are going to depend on the type of run you're doing. So in general, you want to match the fuel you're getting from your food, so what types of nutrients, with the energy systems that you're going to be using on that run. Okay, so for shorter duration, higher intensity runs, your body's going to be using mainly the glycolytic energy system, which means that you'll be using a lot of carbohydrates. Whereas if you're doing a longer duration, relatively lower intensity run, your body will be able to use a combination of carbohydrates and fats to get the fuel and energy it needs to continue running. Which is all good and well, but this is where most people stop, like myself, and you just assume that more is better. You assume that more pre-run nutrition is more fuel, is gonna help you run faster and run further. That is not true. All right, if you've ever eaten too close to a run, you've probably experienced that sloshy, heavy, dragging your feet, upset stomach kind of feeling. After a lot of trial and error and a lot of runs where I ended up getting an upset stomach, having to go home early and urgently sprint to the bathroom, what I have learned is that if I've eaten within the previous 2 hours before my run, I'll usually try to leave it. But if I've left it longer than that, say I slept overnight, I was going on a morning run, if it's been longer than 2 hours, or if I'm dealing with kind of like an empty, sloshy feeling in my stomach, what I'll do is I'll try drinking some water, wait maybe 10-15 minutes, reassess how I feel, and if I still think that I'm hungry, if I still think that I need a little something to kind of take that edge off, what I'll do is I'll have a small snack that's mostly carbohydrates. Okay, so think 100 to 200 calories, low in protein, low in fiber, low in fats, low in anything that might slow down that digestion process. I'll link a study down below that's on runner's diarrhea of all things, but I found it really helpful in starting to better understand pre-run nutrition and how you actually balance your fuel requirements with that digestion time and making sure that everything is in its right place, we'll put it that way, by the time you start your run. Moving on to tip number 4. Run form. Okay, now I know what you're thinking. Running is natural. I've been literally doing this since I was a child, small, without much coordination. Why is this a thing? Running is not natural. Okay, maybe it is, and we all somehow forget how to properly run as we get older. I don't know, but what I can tell you is that just like squatting, just like learning any other activity or skill, run form is something that can be taught and can be improved upon to actually make running a lot safer and easier over time. I made a video not too long ago breaking down some of the biggest running form mistakes that I'll link down below. But beyond just what I explained in that video, something that I really wish I'd understood when I first started running was that it's not just about endurance. Okay, I remember for at least the first 2 months of running, I felt like crap. I struggled every single run. I literally felt like my lungs were leaving my chest. I was so slow and everything was so hard, right? And I assumed that it was just because I didn't have the endurance to run, which yes, was definitely part of the issue, but my form was also seriously off. And when your form is off, your efficiency is low, okay? So even if you're improving your endurance, even if you're improving your overall level of fitness, that less efficient run form is gonna hold you back. So like I said, I'll link that video down below, but I really recommend checking it out and actually trying to put some of those tips and tricks into practice for fixing your form. Which, on the note of running form, that brings me to our 5th and final tip. Let's talk about your phone. Where are we carrying the phone? If you run alone, if you run outside, you hopefully carry a phone with you. If you don't, please do. Please be safe. But something you may not have thought of is where you're actually carrying the phone. Okay, some people are gonna tuck it into the sports bra, some people tuck it into their waistband, some people carry it in their hands. I've always thought those people are crazy. I would totally drop my phone and just into traffic, it would be a nightmare. Wherever you're creatively carrying your phone, what you need to understand is that when you're holding something, when you're keeping tension on one side of your body, this has the potential to create asymmetries in your form, okay? Asymmetries basically mean that your form is not even side to side. Now, not only does this increase your risk of injury, but that's also going to make your running form less efficient. And remember, less efficient running form is going to make running tougher, which if you're just starting, you probably don't want to do that. So my advice and what I have found to be most effective is to invest in a small fanny or waist pack, okay? I got this one, I think, at either like a Dick's or maybe on Amazon, but it was super cheap. It was under, I think it was right around $10. And the key, or what I'd recommend you look for, is a small mesh compartment that's gonna fit your phone, first of all, and then an adjustable elastic waistband so that you can adjust it so it is tight to your body. It's not bouncing around, it's not kind of sitting on one side, it's aligned with your center and it is tight to your mid-back. Because that way, you're not really gonna feel the phone on you, you're not going to be subconsciously compensating for having that additional tension on one side of your body, and you can still run with your phone, you can still run safe, have your music, but it's not going to negatively impact any of your running efficiency, any of your running form, any of that good stuff. That's all for today, but honestly, when I was making this video, I had the longest list of running tips and tricks and weird little like quirky things that I learned along the way that I never really saw in other blog articles or other YouTube videos. So if you found this video helpful, definitely shoot me a thumbs up and let me know if you would like more running tips videos, okay? Because I'm just getting into this and because I'm totally a noob at it, like I am learning as I go, and there are a lot of like little new things that I'm picking up along the way that I would love to share. So definitely, if you found this helpful, shoot me a thumbs up, comment down below if you'd like more, and don't forget to hit that subscribe so you never miss a video from me. I would mess up my hair right before we end this video. All right, guys, we're gonna end here.